Hey, what's up guys? I'm Zora Lightning. I thought I'd make a video showing you guys exactly how I make the mashups that you guys hopefully listen to every so often, if not, I don't know, every day, every week, however often you guys listen to them. But in this video I wanted to show you guys not only how I make the mashups, but also I'm going to take a request or two. This one I received some time ago. It's from Believer3. Can you do a mashup of Lonely and Natural if you know what those songs are? I do know what those songs are. They're both by Imagine Dragons, in case you didn't know. But I was refraining from doing this mashup because it's already been made. Twice, actually. By two mashup artists by the names of Chocolate Chip and CarsonTheRedMoon. So I encourage you guys to check those out if you haven't already. And Believer3 also asked me recently if I have a unique spin for it, which of course I can do if you really want me to. So I'm going to be making a mashup of Lonely and Natural and putting my own spin on it. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'll open up Audacity, which is the software I use to make mashups, and I go to Import under File and then Audio, and I keep all of my stems in my downloads folder. Of course, if you don't want to do that, of course you don't have to, but this is just what I do because it's easiest, and I have a lot of stuff in here, and some of the stuff I have is Lonely, for example. And also going to be bringing in some natural stems. Alright, so I have the official acapella, and this is a filtered instrumental, so it's not like technically the best, but it's pretty good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Tunebat.com, which is a website that shows you the BPM and key for every song that is on Spotify, so that's a lot of stuff. And here it says that Natural is D major and 100 BPM. Doesn't seem quite right. Okay, I guess it is. Sometimes it's not entirely correct, like it might be 99 or 101 BPM or A major or something like that. But overall, Tunebat is pretty good. Just whatever you do, don't use GetSong BPM. They get the time signature wrong sometimes, and you don't want to do that. So now let's check Lonely, which is 98 BPM. Not bad at all. Let's change Lonely here, and under effect is where you can do stuff like change the tempo, and you can literally just add in the BPM here. So we want to go from 98 to 100. And what I'm going to try working with first is Natural Instrumental. I like to bring that to the top, the main instrumental that I'm working with, and Lonely vocals, and mute what isn't needed. And then zoom in.
Sometimes I can get a little
that is offbeat. The next thing, of course, that you need to do is line it up correctly.
Sometimes I can get a little, I can get a little.
Now, I'm not entirely sure how Lonely is supposed to go, so in a case like this, what I like to do is just see how it works out with its own instrumental.
Sometimes I can get a little, I can get a little lonely. Sometimes I can get a little, I can get a little lonely. Some nights I get.
Okay. Actually, in this case, it might be more effective to line up the instrumentals and that looks pretty good.
Sometimes I can get a little, I can get.
Just note that the instrumental and acapella of the same song will not always automatically line up the same.
Sometimes I can get a little, I can get a little lonely. Sometimes I can get a little, I can get a little lonely. Some nights I get a little lonely. It's even when there's people all around me. Sometimes I get a little anxious 'cause these pills don't work the way the doctor played it. I'm starting to spin needles and pins right on the brim, hand on the limb, taking it in, sleep it away, life in a day and a day in a life.
Okay, I'm not sure this is exactly right.
Doctor played it. I'm starting to spin needles.
And of course, sometimes you can line it up perfectly the first time, and sometimes you don't. That's just a fact of mashups.
Played it. I'm starting to spin needles and pins right on the brim, hand on a limb, taking it in, sleep it away, life in a day and a day in a life, mixing it up, checking it twice, trying to breathe, starting to seize, lights, camera, action and scene, story of my life. Oh love, have mercy.
Okay, and this is one of those cases where you want to kind of split it up, and you can do that by pressing Control I, or you can go to clip boundaries and click split. But again, you always want to make sure that you line up the first beat of the chorus correctly. Always, even if it's offbeat, even if it's totally off key, you always want to make sure you line up the first beat of the chorus correctly, because that, if you don't do that, or you don't do it in a way that it sounds acceptable, that is the number one thing I would say that you have to get correct about your mashup.
Smile.
Yeah, now that is exactly what I want here. And at this point, it might be good to add in some of the natural acapella. And how we're going to do that is first we have to make sure that it is synced correctly. You can do that like this.
Will you hold the line?
Nope, not at all.
you hold the line when every one of them.
And not entirely sure if that's correct because there aren't really any beats here. So
That's the price you pay. Leave behind your heart and cast away. Just another.
I think that's a bit too fast. If it sounds like the vocals are coming too soon, which sounds obvious, but yeah. So you move it right, and
That's the price you pay.
and that time the instrumentals come too soon, so
That's the price you pay. Leave behind your heart and cast away. Just another product of today. Rather be the hunter than the prey. And you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural. I beat it harder, stone.
and that is what you want. So here I'm noticing that the lonely verse ends here, but the chorus starts here. So if you have blank spots in your mashup, that is a great place to add the vocals of the instrumental song. And that's going to be the natural pre-chorus in this case.
Just another product of today. Rather be the hunter than the prey.
And this is a great place to start because this is the end of one line and this is the start of the next, which is the last line of the pre-chorus.
Rather be the hunter than the prey.
And we split and like basically just delete this whole thing. This silences it, and you can also press Control L, but I never end up doing that for some reason. So in this case, the chorus of natural starts right here, but the chorus of lonely starts here. So you have to make the decision at this point. Do you want to start the chorus here?
And you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural.
Like, do you want to start it there and end up maybe somewhere around here? Like, just cut it apart and let it transition back into lonely? Or do you want to leave this part blank, which I think is what I'm going to do here, and have to get all of this part because this is where the chorus starts, and this stuff is more vocals.
And you're standing on.
And I kind of didn't do that here, but what you can do is zoom in really close and delete that.
It twice, trying to breathe, starting to seize lights, camera, action, and scene. Be the hunter than the prey. Oh no.
Actually, this doesn't sound as good as I thought it would.
Than the prey. And you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural.
Yeah, this doesn't really work out very well. Maybe there'll just be some silence here? Yeah, this is gonna sound interesting.
And you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural.
Yeah. Let's see how that sounds.
Day in a life, mixing it up, checking it twice, trying to breathe, starting to seize lights, camera, action, and scene. Story of my life. Oh no.
That doesn't sound bad. I think I'll keep it that way, actually. Alright, and then after this we sort of just listen and see what needs stuff to be added to it.
Oh Lord, have mercy on me and keep me company. I say, oh Lord, smile to keep things easy. I hide in corners, hope that no one sees me. So I'm playing the role, riding the bull, stuck in the hole, taking a bow, looking so proud. Look at me now, talking about feels in my mouth, under the tongue. Isn't it fun? Trying to breathe, starting to seize lights, camera, action, and scene. Story of my life. Oh.
Yeah, this is exactly where it doesn't work out. So it's not quite to the chorus yet, that's here. But the chorus for Lonely starts here. And this is the exact kind of thing that I will need to add some natural in here. Now I can choose to either include like the lights, camera, action part of Lonely here, or I can do it over here. And this is the kind of thing where you kind of have to see just which sounds best, again, which is mostly what mashup making is.
Isn't it fun? Trying to breathe, starting to seize lights, camera, action, and scene. Story of my life. Oh.
I mean, it sounds good, but I think it could sound better.
Isn't it fun? Trying to breathe.
And you want to make sure that you're selecting where there is as little, where the waves are like as small as possible, so not like right here or here. If you have to zoom in really far to do that, then so be it. But again, in a time like this, it's most important that you line up the first beat of the chorus, which I believe I did not do that here. Maybe I did. That's a little too soon. And I don't know what's going on over here, but what I'm going to do is, let's see, how does natural work with this?
Mouth under the tongue, that's the price you pay. Leave behind your heart and cast away. Just another product of today. Trying to breathe, starting to seize lights, camera, action, and scene. Story of my life.
Okay, that actually, I think that actually works pretty well. This part's a little awkward though. I better delete part of natural here. It doesn't give you a whole lot, just enough to listen to it all with all of it unmuted and not have everything chaotically screaming in the background.
Looking so proud, look at me now, talking about feels in my mouth, under the tongue. That's the price you pay. Leave behind your. Looking so proud, look at me now, talking about feels in my mouth, under the tongue. That's the price you pay.
I think
The price you pay.
I will cut out this big gasp here because it's kind of louder than the rest of the vocals here, so let's see how that sounds.
That's the price you pay. Leave behind your heart.
Yeah, I think that sounds better. And okay. But so the chorus actually sounds pretty good, like with just the lonely stuff in there. But I'm wondering if I can work in some natural. And let's see this.
'Cause you're a natural, a bit high stone. You gotta be so cold to make it this way. Yeah, you're a natural, living your life cutthroat. You gotta be so cold. Yeah, you're a natural.
That really doesn't work in there, does it? Alright, I guess I'm deleting this whole thing. I hope this doesn't sound like every other naturally lonely mashup on YouTube. And now that I mentioned that, now would be a good time to save, in case you have too many Audacity projects open. This is a relatively small number, but if your computer, you know, is not able to handle more than 3 or 4 Audacity windows or something of that sort, you might want to save pretty often in case it crashes. And you have a save project, obviously, and it'll give you a bit of a warning, and you give it a name. What I do is just the name of the mashup, such as Naturally Lonely's already been done, so how about we do Lonely in Nature, and it won't take too long to save, unless you're running on a Chromebook, in which case I can tell you, unfortunately, it definitely will take a while. And I noticed that there's some silence in the instrumental of Natural, but not in Lonely, so let's see what that sounds like. That's interesting. Could I maybe keep the drums? I think this needs to be a little bit quieter if it's to work out very well. Which you can do by going to Effect, then Amplify. Let's do something just a little bit, see how that works. Yeah, that actually sounds pretty good. And I kept this part the same because obviously there's nothing there. And perhaps I should... No, I think that's fine where it is. Maybe... Might as well just delete this whole part here. So it starts just with the natural.
Sometimes I can get a little lonely. Sometimes I can get a little lonely. Some nights I get a little lonely. It's even when there's people all around me.
And alright, well, back to more this area. This is a good time to add more lonely instrumental. What about... Actually, if I'm going to line this up, I might as well line it up perfectly, you know? Yeah, there we go. Is that lined up perfectly though? Ooh, that's a little imperfect. But, easy fix. Doesn't sound too bad. Now...
Taking it down, looking so proud. Look at me now, talking about. That's the price you pay. Leave behind your heart.
Actually... I'll keep trying it.
That's the price you pay. Leave behind your heart and cast away. Just another product of today. Trying to bring me started season as camera action scene. Story of my life. And you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural.
And there's a button here that says repeat last effect, or whatever your last effect was. In my case it was the amplification, and I want to apply the same, about the same level of amplification. Okay, what did that do? Nothing. Yeah, okay, it was about, I think, 2.5. Yeah.
That's the price you pay. Leave behind your heart and cast away. Just another product of today. Trying to bring me started season as camera action scene. Story of my life. And you're standing on the edge, face. Another product of today. Trying to bring me started season. Camera action scene, story of my life. And you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural.
Actually, I don't know if this lonely part is synced very well, so nope. You can zoom in pretty far, and that is not the farthest that I showed. You can zoom in all the way until you can see like each little point on the wave, and what you can do, if there's a, let's say there is like one that was really like loud for some reason, and it's kind of painful in the ears, so you make it a little quieter. But you have to zoom in like pretty far to do any of that stuff. Yeah, you might notice me zooming in and out a lot while doing this.
Trying to bring it started to seize lights, camera, action scene, story of my life. And you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural. Have mercy on me.
And the second chorus is where I like to do one of two things. If the first chorus has both songs acapellas in them, which this one does not, but if it does, then I like to do the exact same thing with the second chorus that I did with the first one, which that might be half the chorus is lonely and then the second half is natural. If I do something like that, then I would want to repeat the exact same thing here. But maybe with like a little bit of a twist, so like maybe the end is different, or maybe the beginning, or maybe there's some extra background vocals in there. I don't know, but this isn't one of those mashups that I do where the chorus is like that. This is one of those mashups I do where the chorus is all one song because I just can't find a good way to make it transition, which is unfortunate, but it happens. But what I like to do in one of these circumstances is use the main instrumental song here, or just completely switch the songs I'm using during the chorus. So, yep, we are just cutting out Lonely. And yes, let's see how this works.
Another product of today. scene, story of my life. And you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural.
Or maybe I don't want to do that because that sounds a little too boring for a mashup, so maybe I'll switch the chorus instrumentals here.
Another product of today. Trying to breathe, starting to seize lights, camera, action, and scene, story of my life. And you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural. I've been in heart of stone. You gotta be so cold to make it in this world. Yeah, you're a natural. Living your life cutthroat. You gotta be so cold. Yeah, you're a natural. Have mercy.
That's kind of a weird part. I think I will keep the natural in for this just to add a little bit of extra instrumental. And you can't have too much instrumental. You can have way too much instrumental. Oh, you can have so much instrumental. But, see how this sounds?
Story of my and you're standing on the edge, face up, 'cause you're a natural. I've been in hard.
That does not sound bad. I'm going to mute the natural here.
Have mercy. Oh Lord, can you please have mercy on me? Keep me company. L-O-N-E-L. Why am I so low?
Okay, in this part I think I will try to bring out the natural instrumental a little bit more by making the lonely instrumental a little bit quieter. I feel like it's a little bit too overpowering right here.
Have mercy. Oh Lord, can you please have mercy on me? Keep me company.
Yeah, I think I'll have to make the natural a little bit louder for this. Audacity, for some reason, it auto-detects, like, I don't know what would be best maybe for the amplification, but it's not always what you want. So, yeah.
Roll. Have mercy. Oh Lord, can you please have mercy on me?
Alright, that's a little bit better. And I'm not sure exactly what I want to do for the final chorus yet, but let's see what sounds good.
L-O-N-E-L. Why am I so low? Have mercy on me and keep me company. I say, oh Lord, have mercy on me and keep me company. I say, oh Lord.
Okay, so I think for this I will need to make this quieter because this is also a little bit overpowering, and I like to just experiment to see what sounds good, and I think I'll make the natural instrumental a little bit louder too. Maybe that's too loud. Maybe I'll just do a little bit.
L-O-N-E-L. Why am I so low?
Alright, now that's more what I want here. And Natural has a pretty good outro, but I was thinking, what if I made the lonely chorus come second, where the natural outro is supposed to go, just the naturals here. And I kept the natural chorus first, right here. So I'm not sure where I'm going to split it.
Why am I so low?
I'll try splitting it here because this is where the I'm gonna make it comes in. Okay, that's a little too...
Why am I so low? Why am I so low?
Alright, so as you can see, a lot of what mashup making is about is aligning little clips of audio correctly.
Why am I so low? So low. So low. So low. Have mercy on me and keep me turning. Have mercy. So low. So low. Have mercy on me.
The trick is just finding that sweet spot in there, and also seeing how the natural acapella plays into this. Let's check this out.
I'm gonna make it. Natural, I beat it hard as stone. You gotta be so cold to make it in this world. Yeah, you're a natural, living your life control. You gotta be so cold. Yeah, you're a natural. So low. Have mercy on me. And yeah, turn yours. Have mercy on me. Yeah, you're a natural.
Now, there are two things we could do here. The first thing is, we could say this is done, this mashup is done, and it sounds good and everything, and all that. Or we could do some cleaning up in here because, see, there's a bunch of silence at the end, and this just is something that all or most songs have for some reason. But the best thing to do is delete this so that when your reviewers are listening to the mashup, they're not left with 10 seconds of silence at the end, because that's not fun for anyone. But what you can do is you can zoom in really close and just delete as much as you can, and see there's a little bit, it's just one little wave right here, and delete as close to that as possible. Again, this part is optional, but recommended by me. And you can delete little sections of audio by just pressing the delete key. Of course, that seems kind of obvious, but yeah. So, and at the beginning, there's a lot of that here too. There's like an entire second of it. And it won't matter if you have silence like inside of here. This this little section of silence here will not affect the mashup in any way at all. But what you can do is, if there's nothing here, Audacity will still start at 0. So you have to select everything and drag it over. And another thing that I think it would be helpful to do here in a mashup like this, where not all of the instrumentals and acapellas are official, is to go through and see if there's any part of them that just doesn't sound very good. It's hard to fix up instrumental filters, but for the acapellas there's some things you can do.
Sometimes I get a little lonely. Sometimes I get a little lonely. Some nights I get.
Now this part is fine, but if we go to the chorus here,
I smile to keep things.
okay, it's not so obvious there, but I'll bet if I go to the last chorus that I turned into the outro. Yeah, this is it right here. And this is where he's saying I can get a little lonely, but the filters, of course, are not perfect, and it kind of is a little quieter. And again, you don't really want to do it for as much that Audacity suggests, but just play around with it and see how it sounds. Okay, that doesn't sound good, so I'm not exactly sure what to do in a case like this, except maybe revert to the original. Or just delete it and pretend it doesn't exist. Yeah, that's a good way to deal with stuff like that. Alright, now it is done, and a good thing to do right now is save it again. And also, now we can go to export, and you can export it as MP3 or WAV or whatever, but I'd recommend, if you're uploading it to YouTube, doing it as an MP3, because that'll take up less space, and nobody's going to be able to tell, like, just on YouTube, unless they download it, and it won't be the highest quality anyway on YouTube, so you might as well do something. And it'll warn you, because I guess because it will only be 1 track instead of 4, and you can change whatever, like I don't know, artist name, Imagine Dragons. The track title is Lonely Nature. And this is all optional, and then it'll take a little bit of time to export. And now you have an audio file that is your mashup. And there's another mashup I wanted to make on video and show you guys exactly how I do it. And for this, I'm going to show you guys how I make a mashup where the time signatures aren't the same, and also an Adele Imagine Dragons mashup, because you may have noticed that I make a lot of those. And I'm happy because Water Under the Bridge, I realized it kind of late, but it's got an official instrumental, which unfortunately, no matter how hard I tried, does not really invert very well. But yeah, this is Start Over and Water Under the Bridge. I'll be remaking the one that I made last spring, because better stems now. Like, even then, like, it kind of progressed from bad filter to slightly less bad filter to official, so that'll be nice to use. And see, there's a lot of blank space at the beginning, but again, best thing to do is go to Tunebat, which is 98 BPM, apparently. And Water Under the Bridge is 95. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change, not Start Over, but Water Under the Bridge. This is just the official audio here. And you may notice that the mashups that I'm making right now, the songs have very similar BPMs. This is not always the case. Sometimes you'll want to make a mashup where one song is 100 BPM and the other is 130, and the mashup can slap just as hard as any other, but it's just something to be aware of here. Alright, and next big issue, Start Over here. This is off key, so I am going to go to change pitch, and you can select what the original key was, or the key that you're trying to get to, or the key, sorry, this is the key that you're trying to get to, and this is the key that it already was. And if you're like me, you can just tell that Start Over needs to be lower by about 1 semitone. Yeah, or you can go to Tunebat, which has the keys of the songs. This one is wrong, actually. Water Under the Bridge is not F minor, it's E flat major. And Start Over, I believe, is E major. So there's this wonderful thing called a Camelot wheel, which you can just Google one of these. But what it is it shows you which keys will sound good with which keys. And sometimes it's obvious, like E major and E flat major. And so obviously you'd have to lower the key by like 1 semitone to get from E major to E flat major, but sometimes you'll have something like E flat major and C sharp minor. Actually, that was what it said for Start Over, wasn't it? Yeah, well, sometimes it's more complicated, and this is kind of a nice visual way of looking at it. Or if or if you can hear how it needs to be pitched, then that's good too. And now let's play this and see what it sounds like.
Clenched teeth, no words, oh this.
And you may notice, like, it sounds on beat, but it sounds kind of funny. And that's because Start Over is 6/8, and there's two things to do here. Number one is to pretend that Start Over's BPM is not 98, and that would probably be somewhere around 64-ish. To pretend it is, you pretend that it's around 64, and basically pretend that it's a 4/4 song that way. Or what you can do is you can split it up every single line, and this doesn't always work, but in this case it does. Split every single line up and separate them and line each one up perfectly, which is kind of difficult sometimes, but I think I can do that here.
Clenched teeth. Clenched teeth. No words. Oh.
Yeah, now that is what we want, and I'm just going to repeat that for the entirety of the first verse.
Oh, this is taking its toll.
And I'll just drag this off to some unknown point in the future. But what I'm going to do here is I am going to now play this and see if it sounds good.
Clenched teeth, no words. Oh, this is taking its toll. Speaking volumes, silence screaming over your words.
And in case you're wondering, the reason why I'm making this mashup is purely because the old one was offbeat in a few areas, more than a few areas, so yes, that's why I'm doing this here. And this is where I'd add some of the water under the bridge verse. So I'm going to jump ahead to where the pre-chorus should be.
Holding me the way you do. Oh, honey, if I'm not the one for you, why have we been through what we have been through? It's so cold.
Alright, that's right here.
I never did you right. I know that too many.
Now this is one of those cases where, like I said, you line it up the first time and everything sounds good. And you don't need to do anything about that.
I never did right. I know that.
Now, if there's like a little gasp right here, you can choose to either make it non-existent completely, just what I think I need to do, or you can keep it in there, but it might sound a little funny when the singer is gasping for breath after not singing anything or about to not sing anything. And this is the same for the pre-chorus. You have to split it up to make sure that it doesn't sound really weird. And this is like one of the few cases where you can do this with a 6/8 song and a 4/4 song, and it will sound perfectly fine, in my opinion. If you don't think it sounds good, then let me know. But yeah, overall, I think it works pretty well. Yeah, and delete this little gasp here. And again, you want to make sure the beats are lined up correctly. And if it doesn't sound right, it probably isn't.
I said it time and time. I know that I said it time and time. I know that I said it time and time. I know that I wanna try again. Can we start over?
Now that actually, I think that sounds pretty good, but I'm a little tempted to just cut all this out and put in the water under the bridge instead, but I don't know which will sound better, if I should keep the start over or use the water under the bridge, or if I should maybe combine them in a nice little way and show you guys exactly why I like making mashups, which I think I will do that.
I wanna try again. Can we start over? Can we start?
Yeah, this is another case where I need to split it up. Chorus is the same way as the rest of the song.
Can we start? Can we start over?
And you'll notice that the spaces between the little clips are about the same. And if they're way off, something's probably wrong.
Can we start over?
You might notice that there's a little bit of instrumental in here.
Start over.
And this you can just cut out.
Can we start over? Can we start over?
Also, sorry for all the static, my computer fan is being kind of loud. don't want the second verse to appear this early because Water Under the Bridge still has a lot of post-chorus to get through, which is nice, and we can make a lovely mixed chorus here. I think this part comes a little too soon. Now it's time to show you guys exactly what I mean by a mixed chorus. And this does not sound good, so I'm going to mute this first. And make sure that it's exactly the right spot. I had already lined up these pretty well. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to cut out a little part of this here. And this is the official audio. This is the instrumental. I'm not using an instrumental and acapella for this one, not yet at least, because my Water Under the Bridge acapella filter is kind of weird, and you might see what I mean by that eventually. Alright, and this part I might want to delete some of the instrumental as well. Just keep in mind that once you delete stuff in Audacity, unless you undo it, you can't bring it back unless you obviously Control-Z undo, or if you just import the audio track all over again. What I'm going to do in this section is I'm going to keep the entire second verse the same, which might not sound like a good idea, but I'll make it work, I guess. And yeah, like you can see, I split it all up here, and I'd have to do the exact same thing for the second chorus, which I am totally fine with doing, but I don't want to do that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some Water Under the Bridge here.
And if I'm not the one for you, what we have been through, it's so I never did you right.
Alright, and this part is kind of weird to work with because the pre-chorus of Water Under the Bridge sort of blends in with the rest of the verse, so and what I usually do when I make a mashup for Water Under the Bridge is I sort of cut it out right at the end of Cold, which can sometimes sound pretty interesting, but I think it'll be fine here.
And if I'm not, we have been through, it's so I never did you right, I know that.
And of course silence this part so it doesn't sound... Actually, I'll play what it sounds like. Yeah, it sounds kind of weird. And now this part, let's see. Yeah, I see what it kind of did here. So the waves are like above the line here and they're below here, so that's not going to sound awesome. And what we can do, this is where it might be helpful to sort of draw it a bit. Digital art, am I right? But just make it so it's low here. Now let's listen and see what it sounds like.
I never did you right, I know that.
Yeah, see, that's a lot better. And it would be a lot easier to make these kinds of transitions with an instrumental and an acapella, but unfortunately I kind of don't have that here, so what I'm going to do, Water Into the Bridge has a nice intro with, it's got the instrumental, like a nice round of instrumental here, and then it's got a little bit of vocals. You can see that right here where the waves are a little bit taller than down here. And what I'm going to do is cut right about here when I'm pretty confident that there are no vocals, and just delete this part of the instrumental, and then this part of the acapella, or the audio, sorry. Haha, and yeah, you can hear the little click happening here. And I'll bet that's caused by the same thing happening. Yep, exactly the same thing, in fact. Fortunately, this is an easy fix. Little bit of a click here, but it's not so bad. You see, I've accidentally done something with this one right here. And this one is supposed to be silent. Yep, and there we go. Intro is done.
Clenched teeth, no words. Oh, this is taking its toll. Speaking volumes, silence screaming over your words. And if I'm not the one.
Yep, and everything I've done here, except for this part, is exactly the same as the original version, but on beat, because if you're going to make something similar to something you've done before, but the thing you've done before wasn't all that great, why not make it better, you know?
Before it's over. Before it's over.
There we go. And the next start over addition I'm going to add is the second chorus. So it'll be right about here to split, but I'm not going to be doing that. I think I will actually include most of the second verse too. But a characteristic of Start Over, this might be easier to show in the beginning, is that it's 6/8, but it's, see, there's 6 beats here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But the thing is, it's like 4 and then 2. I'll play that. And see, there's the 4 and then there's the 2, which makes it nice and easy to split up when mashing with a 4/4 song. And chances are if you request a mashup with songs like Start Over or Summer or Second Chances or even Gold, not so much Gold though, but I'll make it up to you, Next to Me, and there's one more that I'm forgetting right now. Also Release by Imagine Dragons. The mashup artist will probably say, yeah, maybe eventually, but no. Not really. I don't think I can do that. This is why, because it is a lot harder to make a mashup with 2 songs with different time signatures than it is to make a mashup of 2 songs with the same time signature, which of course doesn't stop me from doing it all the time, but it stops some other mashup artists. So I thought I would tell everyone about that. Alright. Oh yeah, and this part is off key too. Might need to change the key again. That actually sounds pretty good. But in this case I think I will bring in the acapella because maybe I don't want to have Water Under the Bridge acapella on top of its instrumental the entire time that I'm using it. And this one's a filter. I have it somewhere. But you might notice that in some parts there is a pretty hefty sized wave that appears in one stereo channel but not the other. And I'll play what that sounds like. Which, in the original song, that's when it goes. Which is a pretty big flaw here, and that's why I'm working with the official audio. Not because so much that there's a lot of loss of quality between the acapella and the original audio, but because of this here. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete that part. and this part, because I don't need it. And I like when I am working with multiple audio tracks, like more than 2 or 3, I like to put the vocals as close to the instrumental that I'm matching it with as possible. Let's see, what part of the song is this in? Yeah, and see, it did it there again. May as well delete all the silence here, make it easier to work with. And this is a very similar thing that I'm doing right now that I did with Start Over earlier. I'll be splitting it up and probably making them closer together. I'll see how that's possible. Actually, I might split it up again because the nature of Start Over is that it's 4 and then 2, and then Water Under the Bridge is just 4. So there's 2 extra beats here. So I might end up doing the exact same thing. And again, biggest struggle here is making it line up with the right beats. Yeah, this all just doesn't sound quite right. And I sort of understand why, but I also sort of don't. So let's see how it lines up with the beats here. This is going to sound interesting. Actually, wait, I know exactly what I can do here. Because Start Over is 4 and then 2, I just have to double the 2. And in this case, I want to get this exactly correctly, so I'm going to get as close to the beat as possible. And then as close to the next set of beats as possible. And of course, it doesn't have to be perfect, because if you're able to hear the difference, that's amazing, but I'm not, so actually that's probably bad, but I'll go with it anyway. See if this sounds right. Actually, that sounds really bad. Alright, I'm sure there's a way to stretch it out, but this is the kind of thing where I just have to experiment and see what works and see what does not. Alright, if I keep this up, I'm going to run out of space here. Alright, I've already run out of space here. So, I'm going back to my original plan for this. I think this is the audio. And you can click on these little lines here to reconnect all of the audio clips. And the best way to line up vocals with original audio is just to see how they collide. I still have no idea what this tool does, even though I've used Audacity for quite some time, but it seems I accidentally did this, which is just used to make it like fade in and fade out and stuff like that. But also, if you want it to fade in and fade out, you can go to Effect and Fade Out. And I set up some keyboard shortcuts here for the things I use most often. Apparently not these, but the rest of it, yeah. Sorry for everyone whose ears I'm torturing right now. I think this is good enough, but I'm not entirely sure. When in doubt, zoom in further. Now it's about here that I made it silent, and I want to get the exact point.
If you're gonna let me, if you're gonna let me,
I think I might have. And this is one of those cases where I really shouldn't have cut out as much as I did, so I'm going to have to bring it in all over again. You know, since this isn't the chorus, so there isn't anything weird going on with the acapella, I might as well just use the instrumental and acapella here with little to no harm done. And you can totally move stuff onto different tracks, as I'm about to show here. And see there, you wouldn't think that this is anything less than the official audio. It's a different story during the background vocals because of how the websites that filter these things work. But and I'm just going to keep all of this in here, but I'm going to cut it out before that part. Alright, now time to show exactly what I wanted to do with the Start Over instrumental.
You're gonna let me down, let me
Of course, I mentioned one of the most important things about making a mashup is making sure that the first beat is, well, on beat. And that includes the instrumental and its accompanying acapella.
Can we start over? Can we The only thing that I want is your love.
And this is where I want to do a fade in, and I'm not going to be using any of this part here at all. Like the entire rest of Start Over, I'm just going to cut out. You can hear how like bass and everything comes in and it sounds not so great. Well, that is where we do a fade in. You can also go up here to Effect, and it's down here. And that is what I wanted here.
Can we start over? Can we start over? Can we start over? Before it's over. Over. Can we start over? Can we get closer? Can we start over? Before it's over.
And there's so much more that I have to do here, but my battery's running kind of low, and it would take a while to show exactly everything I do in a mashup like this. So I'm going to go ahead and show the uploading process. Now there are two ways I could do it. I could go into Blender and make this nice little video and all of that, where I have to like line up the audio and the image and everything perfectly. Or I could just let Tunestotube do that all for me. And what Tunestotube is it's just a website that lets you upload an image and an audio file. And it doesn't work with super big files like WAVs and stuff, but it creates the video for you and it creates it super quickly. And I need a mashup for Monday, not this Monday, but next Monday, because I release a new mashup every Monday, in case you did not know. And I'm not going to do Start Over the Bridge because I do not upload remakes on mashup posting day. So instead I'm going to do Lonely in Nature. And in the description I like to say something like, This was requested by Believer3. And then show which songs are the acapella and which songs are the instrumental, in which case this is both, so and then I tag it under something so more people can find it. I usually do the name of the band or singer and the fact that it's a mashup because, you know, gotta tag it under what it is. And then Mercury Act 1 kind of just got released, so I'll tag it under that. And maybe Natural. Since Natural is a single, I like to do the singles, or if it's Riverly, or just songs I feel like tagging sometimes. And also let's do Lonely. Not always the album because I just don't feel like it's necessary, and then I upload the files. But what I have to do here is I have to make a mashup cover for it. And you can just take any cover image and copy and paste that in. And Tunestotube will automatically add like a border to change it to the dimensions you want. So I have it just a 2:1 ratio kind of thing. It's actually 800 by 1600. And and they don't have to be super high quality images. It's a mashup. It's you're not here to watch a video, you're here to listen to the video. Actually, I have another layer already in here. But I have this one file for all of my mashup covers, and then I export it as something else, like the mashup name, which every single one of them popped up here. That's fun. But I'm going to export it as Lonely in Nature, just like the audio file. And then I mark it as private, and once it finishes uploading, I click create video and it'll be done in just a few seconds. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this and for more mashups like the ones you watched me make in the video. In the description are the links to the other Naturally Lonely mashups I mentioned, and thanks for watching.